The Cuyahoga County Human Resources Appointments and Equity Committee is called to order. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
As a reminder to all in attendance, this meeting is being recorded and live streamed on the county's YouTube page. Calling the roll, Ms. Turner.
Present.
Mr. Gallagher.
Here.
Mr. Miller. Ms. Conwell. Mr. Sweeney.
Present.
You have a quorum.
Thank you. Is there any public comment?
No, Madam Chair, no one has signed in for public comment.
Okay. May I have a motion to approve the minutes from the January 16th meeting?
So moved.
May I have a second? It's been moved and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Okay. Please call the first item.
Resolution 2023-0318, confirming the county executive's reappointment of various individuals to serve on the Cuyahoga County Citizens Advisory Council on Equity for the term July 15th, 2023 through July 14th, 2026, for the reappointment of Heidi Gullett, MD, Eddie Taylor, and Janice Contreras.
Hey, thank you.
Good morning, Councilwoman.
Good morning, Ms.
Zoe Toscas on behalf of the county executive and pursuant to Cuyahoga County Ordinance Number 2012-0002. I'm here to recommend the reappointment of Janice Contreras to serve on the Cuyahoga County Citizens Advisory Council on Equity for the term July 15th, 2023 through July 14th, 2026. We are requesting a second reading suspension, and Janice is tuning in virtually today.
Okay. Madam Clerk? Good morning. Can you hear us?
Good morning. I can. Can you hear me?
Buenas.
Buenos dias. Thank you so much for letting me join you virtually. Wish I could be there. Actually, I'm in Columbus. Our organization was just awarded a Minority Business Assistance Center contract with the state of Ohio. So we are super excited to bring more resources to our region around entrepreneurship and helping diverse entrepreneurs gain government contracts, specifically with the MBAC program and in collaboration with our local urban league. It has been an honor for me to serve on the CASE committee for the last, I think it's been 5 years at this point. Time flies. Still feel like there's a lot of important work to get done. I have been part of CASE since its inception and have seen the potential that we have with the new leadership and collaboration with council, and am excited to roll up my sleeves and work with the rest of my colleagues along with city council to really increase our inclusion and participation, not just within the county, but just throughout the region. And so really excited about this opportunity and grateful for the opportunity to serve again.
Well, we have appreciated your service and hopefully we look forward to moving forward. I have a couple of questions for you, if that's okay. Since you've been around for a few years, can you describe some of the projects that the commission currently has in the works?
Yeah, absolutely. So I specifically worked on the committee related to economic development. We were really looking at solutions around workforce and connecting entrepreneurship throughout the landscape to be more equitable. So specifically around access to capital, along with my colleague Stephen Canavas on this committee. So that was the area that I was mostly participating in based on my work and my connection to the community in this respect. So specifically, economic development and entrepreneurship is my strong suit and what I bring to the table in my role. I feel like we didn't get as deep as we wanted to into the work because, you know, we spent time around structure and what does this committee look like. I was excited to participate in our last meeting with county executive and being able to hear how some of his goals match a lot of the work that we've done and the openness to really have better alignment so that we could ultimately reach greater impact.
Okay, thank you. Do you believe that the county is providing adequate resources so the commission can perform its work?
I think there's opportunity for additional support. Everybody on this CASE committee have important jobs and important roles in our quite overextended. So I think there's opportunity for additional support so that, as I mentioned, we could really get deeper and really impact change and turn the needle, right? I think, none of us want to be on a committee just for the sake of being on it. We want to create impact and we want to make our county a better place. And so I think there's a lot of opportunities for additional support to make sure that we could get there.
So maybe not necessarily in dollars, but in bodies?
Absolutely. Yep. I think we could be very creative on, we know dollars are limited, but I think there's other ways that we can engage with county employees and making, and being part of the solution or being part of the movement that's really moving, getting things done. So I think there could be better alignment of resources and defining resources broadly.
Okay. I have one more question before I turn it over to my colleagues. How do you see the work of CASE and similar efforts in the city of Cleveland working in tangent with one another without duplication?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I think a question and something that I searched to understand myself, right? We know the city has a very similar committee. I think there is some overlap in membership. So I don't sit on both, but I know there's others that do participate in both. And so I think that strengthens our ability to have a good exchange in between what we're doing in alignment. The Trust on Equity was just developed by Team NEO. So there's a lot of efforts. I am involved in an NSF engine work that's very similar. And so I think there are efforts to try to really streamline all of the equity and inclusion work that's happening. We each have obviously our own objectives and our own charters, but better alignment is also going to address the issue that we just talked about around resourcing, right? We know resources are scarce. And so exploring opportunities, I think, is something that we should talk to the chair of Habiba Grimes and other colleagues on trying to figure out a way that we could have better alignment to, again, create better impact.
Okay. Any questions from my colleagues? Councilman Conwell?
Yes, good morning. Through the chair, I would just like to follow up on one of the questions that she asked. And your statement was in terms of needing more support. So what does that support look like for CASA?
Yeah, thank you for the question. I think being able to communicate back to our constituents what the work that we're doing is. So being able to have an ongoing communication strategy. We do have a website, and I think we've achieved some small steps and milestones towards that, but really being able to have the opportunity where there's a two-way street in between the citizens of the county and our work to make sure their voice is always represented. And obviously that is our responsibility as part of this committee, but making sure that we're also able to communicate what are the strategies that we're focusing on and what is the progress on any of those in any given time. I think it's very difficult for us as a volunteer board to be able to do that in a way that's consistent, right? That's not just episodic, or it's not when something happens that we have to react to it, but having an ongoing way to communicate and receive feedback and give feedback. And we do allow for that in our meetings, but I think those are some areas where I think would help connect the work that's happening to more of the grassroots and folks really understanding where we're at on the initiatives that we take on.
Do you have a suggestion or any way for the residents to communicate via the website?
I think currently they are able to submit public comments, like written comments for our meetings. And at every meeting we do go over public remarks. And so I think there is a platform to do that. I don't know if there's a way for us always to respond. Or, as I mentioned, just being able to report what the committees are working on, so that they're aware. They're aware in an ongoing mechanism of what is our focus and what have we been able to achieve. So really setting some goals and outputs of where we want to be, but also being able to communicate when we're meeting them and also when we're not, and even inviting the community to provide suggestions on how we might do a better job.
So I'm just wondering, when you talk about might not always be able to respond. I know you guys are volunteering. Again, thank you for your service. Do you think that would be a supportive avenue for the Department of Communication, maybe to see if they have someone that can respond. You know, I know when it's major issues like ballparks and things like that, we get a lot of feedback. But I was just wondering if you guys have talked to the director of communication to see if they have someone in their office that could respond back so that the people could really feel connected a
Yes,
lot more.
I believe, yep, absolutely. I believe that is the charge that our Chair Grimes has taken on, and I believe there have been some resources that have been identified to help in that respect. So we will be better resourced, is my understanding.
Okay, thank you.
Councilman Miller?
Thank you very much, Madam Chair, and to Dr. Gullett. Thank you very much for, I'm going to pull this down so I can see you on the screen. Thank you very much for your willingness to serve in this important capacity. And one thing that the Citizens Advisory Council could do is to help ensure that that everything that the county does is seen through an equity focus. And so my question is whether there are things that the county is doing where you think it's not getting enough equity focus and that we could give it more attention. And before you respond, I apologize. I just presumed that the first witness was the first name on the list, and so, but I see that you're Janice, so I apologize for that. Thank you.
Well, no worries. Thank you, Councilman Miller. So yeah, I definitely think I think our council wouldn't exist if we didn't feel like there were inequities, and our desire to obviously bridge the gap and close the equity gap in many respects, right? And workforce and, how many contracts, are given to minority business owners and opportunities around first response services, right? So I think there is still great need for closing the gap and opportunities in various areas. Obviously, I sit in a seat of entrepreneurship and focused in the Latino community. So we still have a lot of work to do, right? I think we have had some success, but we're a long way from our goals around really achieving full equity. And I dare to say qualitatively that probably in just about every area, we have some room for improvement around developing more equitable policies that in turn give further opportunities to citizens to have an equal playing field.
So, Madam Chair, Ms. Contreras, we commonly think about workforce contracting, hiring, promotions. Those are the obvious areas. Are there other things that the county does outside of these areas where you think we could give it a greater equity focus?
In my opinion, obviously we have a lot of work to do in our justice system, right? To really improve opportunities for young Black and Latino folks that have encountered issues with the justice system. So I think that is, and I know it's one of the top priorities for council, it's one of the top priorities for the county executive. But I think that would be top priority in our areas, really giving young people an opportunity and being able to deter them from engaging in criminal activity that hurts all of us, right? But more importantly, the individual. And so how do we invest early on to provide better opportunities that don't lead into, a life of crime and it's happening because of lack of opportunity and poverty. And we all know the reasons why, but I think we need to be creative and innovative. What we've been doing in our status quo is just not good enough anymore, right? We really need to create some disruption in certain areas to really achieve substantial, benefit or substantial improvement to where we're at.
Thank you very much. I think you gave a very good answer.
Madam Chair, if I could just ask if Ms. Contreras, through the chair, could state the website, and if you don't know it offhand, could we ask Zoe for those that are listening so they can?
And are you referring to the website that has the information on case? I don't
Yes.
know it off the top of
Okay.
my head, sorry.
I can easily send that around.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, if there are no further questions, mi hermana, like myself, you are demonstrating your love and pride for your community through service. I'm so excited about Central Via 25. I'm looking forward to the next stages. But I want to thank you personally for your service and efforts to ensure growth and economic and community development in your community, in our shared communities. Any final words?
Thank you. I mean, we're in this together. And so I think the partnership, I hope that we're able to ensure that our partnership is tighter and able to have, again, just a true way of exchange of ideas and really moving things forward. So I'm just excited to work with each and every one of you, along with the case members and the county executive this term.
Madam Chairwoman,
Thank you.
can you add my name? She's part of District 3, and she's my buddy.
Please add Councilman Sweeney's name. The others? Okay. All right, Madam Clerk?
This item will be held in committee pending testimony from Dr. Heidi Gullett, who was unable to attend today's meeting, and Mr. Eddie Taylor provided testimony at the prior meeting on January 16th.
Okay. Well, thank you. That's the end of our time today.
Safe travels.
The next item for consideration will be taken out of order. Resolution 2024-0043, confirming the county executive's appointment of Virginia Benjamin to serve on the Gateway Economic Development Corporation of Greater Cleveland Board of Trustees for an unexpired term ending May 31st, 2027.
Morning, Madam Chair. Zoe Toscas on behalf of the County Executive and pursuant to the Ohio Revised Code, Section 307.696, I'm here to recommend the appointment of Virginia Benjamin to serve on the Gateway Economic Development Corporation of Greater Cleveland Board of Trustees for an unexpired term ending May 31st, 2027. Virginia will be replacing Ken Silliman. She's a joint appointment between the county executive and the mayor of Cleveland. You should have a letter in your packets from Mayor Bibb approving her recommendation for appointment. And we are requesting a second reading suspension on this, and Gigi is appearing virtually this morning. Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning, Gigi.
Good morning.
We can hear you.
Thank you for, let's see. Oops. Can you hear me now?
Absolutely.
Okay. Well, thank you for taking the time and for allowing me to appear virtually. I appreciate it. I'm in California. And otherwise, I would be in the council chambers this morning. But I'm honored to be recommended for this appointment. And I think my background as a public finance lawyer can be very helpful to the Gateway Board. And I'm looking forward to serving. I have a lot of learning to do.
Okay. Thank you. I have a question from Councilman Sweeney. Oh, go ahead.
Hello, Gigi.
Good morning, Councilman.
Thank you for getting up early today.
My pleasure.
What comes to mind when I see your smiling face is The Godfather. I thought it was out, but they drew me back in.
That's right.
You feel that a little bit?
That's right.
I got nothing but praise for you. We worked together many,
Thank
many
you.
times in the city of Cleveland. And with the state of the Gateway Board, there was a lot of discussion and reflection on who might take over for Ken Silliman, who is, as an outstanding individual, public servant, and he served well. And I'm so glad that you came out, because I
Well, thank you.
I thought you were done. When I saw your name, I'm like, good, we're in great hands now. And there's some stuff happening, so if we can help in council, don't be shy. And you know me personally, so don't be shy to call me. So, Madam Chairwoman, that was more an editorial than a question, but I think it added some value.
Thank you, sir.
Sir, that's the first time you called me sir.
Well, there's a first time for everything.
I love you already.
Thank you.
I'm so excited that at your tender age, you're still excited about learning new things. And so I wanted to ask, what is your general understanding of the purpose of the Gateway Board of Trustees?
Well, the Gateway Board of Trustees, some of the information is not easy to get, but I did get a copy of the Articles of Incorporation, and they say that the purpose of Gateway is to provide sports facilities and other economic development opportunities in the city of Cleveland. And so I think that, obviously we need to continue to work with the Guardians and the Cavaliers to provide an appropriate facility for their wonderful offerings in the city. But we also need to look at the effect that Gateway will have on the economic development in the city and indeed in the region, because it is clearly a regional, if not a national draw. So that's part of what we're looking at. What I think the board ought to be looking at is what's our role in economic development.
Okay. And there's no right or wrong answer, but can you describe what you think is the relationship between the two teams, Gateway, the city, and the county?
Well, this is part of what I'm trying to get my arms around, but I think, obviously the city and the county provide funding sources for the facility, which is owned by Gateway and leased to those two entities. The teams obviously are very important to the city and the county and the region. And as such, I think, they have a certain amount of power just by virtue of being here. I think we need to continue to work together so that no one party is the gorilla in the room, if you will, to appropriately provide, the governmental support for our region. But I think appropriately is the right term to use.
Okay. This community will likely continue to be asked to contribute to major capital repairs to both the arena and the ball field. What are your thoughts on the current funding streams for these facilities? And do you believe the contributions made by the county and the city should be equally shared?
Well, I think and again, I have not had the opportunity to review the leases between the two sports teams and Gateway. But my understanding from the reading that I've done is that major capital repairs are the responsibility of Gateway and through Gateway, the city and the county. The facilities are in the city, and certainly there's an economic benefit to the city that's not the same as in terms of entertainment dollars, income tax revenues, and those types of things. But it is also, as I indicated, I think certainly an asset for the entire county and for the region. So I think I'm not entirely prepared to answer that question, Councilwoman, because I don't understand I don't know the relative proportions at which they contribute at this time, but certainly that's one of the things that we should perhaps take a look at, and as we look for additional funding sources for major capital repairs, look at what each of the parties can bring to the table.
And Gigi, as you're affectionately called,
Yes.
I'm just a regular citizen. I'm a taxpayer. How much is this going to cost me? Is it going to cost me anything?
Well, if you drink or smoke, it'll cost you something. I just don't know the answer to that, Councilman. I'll be honest with you. I've been trying to get my arms around what the sources of funding are. I've asked for some information that I've not yet received. And, you know, I've looked at the IRS Form 990 for Gateway. You know, clearly they're spending more than their net worth is decreasing, so we're gonna have to figure this out. And I just don't know what sources of funding may be available.
Okay, I appreciate that answer. I'm going to open it up for questions from my colleagues. Councilman Miller?
So, Madam Chair, to Ms. Benjamin, thank you very much for your willingness to serve in this important capacity. And my outlook on Progressive Field and the arena and the two sports teams is that if Greater Cleveland is going to stay in this business, that we have to follow the model of Fenway Park and have the facilities last 100 years or more, and we just don't have the money to build new facilities every 25 years, which is going on in a lot of the country. I heard that that Progressive Field is already the 8th oldest baseball park in Major League Baseball, even though it's less than 30 years old. So my question is whether you agree with that general outlook and that we should try to maintain these facilities, build a neighborhood around them, and take aggressive action to maintain them properly so that they can have a very long lifetime.
I do agree with that general principle, yes.
Any further elaboration?
Well, I'm a season ticket holder for the Guardians, so you know I've seen renovations to the stadium, and I've read a little bit. I've been trying to read Ken Silliman's book about financing Cleveland sports facilities, and again trying to get my hands around the financial situation. But it appears that you know we have been doing a reasonable job on the major capital repairs and on renovation. I know the Q went through the transformation project, so you know I think that it looks as though the teams are willing to work with Gateway and the city and the county to use these facilities appropriately.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Councilman Gallagher?
Ms. Benjamin, thank you for being here. I don't know you as well as my friends do, but we're in interesting times. It was interesting times when Gateway was put together. And obviously the dollars flowing in are not the dollars necessary to do the job needed. I've always had a problem with this, quite honestly, because it seems like the sword of Damocles over the taxpayer. Uh, And, uh, and I was the only elected official statewide that voted against the Indians/Guardians. And in part because we're at a point where sometimes you just got to say no. Enough's enough. I won't mention which owner, but I put to one of the owners, why don't we just give you the facility? And as a sweetener, we'll allow you to keep the sales tax on tickets and whatever you sell within your facility. And we're all friends because really, you're really interested in Northeast Ohio. Well, the answer was, why would we do that? And if I'm in their shoes, why would I do that? So sitting around saying that they have the best intentions, they have the best intentions of making money. And the money we put into that baseball stadium only puts money in Dolan's pocket to sell it to the next billionaire. So I think that that should be a public offer and let them say no, and that should come from the board. I would love to just get out from underneath this thing, and I think that's the only way to do it. Of course, they won't do it, but then we're all on the same page. Are you here for us, or are you here for the money? They're here for the money, I get it. Now, down to my real question, the Brown Stadium, which has nothing to do with Gateway. What's your position on that? Because as you know, and maybe you've been briefed already, I don't know if you have, there seems to be somewhat of a movement or concern that there's a movement to place the Brown Stadium under Gateway or some reasonable facsimile thereof. What say you?
I honestly have not thought about that question other than very briefly. Oops, sorry. Wait, there. I just, in all honesty, I can't answer that question based on the little that I know now. I think it would require, I just can't answer that question. I apologize, but I don't, any answer I give you would be very superficial and not a well thought out answer.
Have you been briefed at all on that possibility?
No, I have not. I have not been briefed on anything.
Welcome to the club.
Yeah.
Okay, well, thank you.
Councilwoman Conwell.
Through the chair, to Ms. Benjamin, it's kind of sort of on the line of Councilman Gallagher. Has anyone done a cost analysis of the revenue the stadiums has brought in versus the cost of capital repairs over the years? Is there somewhere we can see that information?
I have not seen that. I don't know the answer to that question.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I have one final question for you. As you know, the Brown Stadium is not under Gateway.
Correct.
Do you believe that it should be under Gateway or a similar authority? And if so, how would you recommend this happening?
At this point, as I said to Councilman Gallagher, I don't have enough information to have formed a thoughtful answer to the question of whether it ought to be under Gateway. Frankly, it seems to me that Gateway has its hands full with the progressive field and the arena, and adding another stadium at this point might add to the issues that I believe Gateway has. But is it totally outside the realm of possibility? I don't know.
Okay, that's honest. What time is it there?
7:49 a.m.
Oh, wow. I can appreciate you. I appreciate you. And thank you for doing your research. And I know you will be amazing. I've done a little research as well. I looked you up in the dictionary next to public finance, and your picture was there.
Thank you. Thank you.
Your Marty's jealous. Your resume is unassailable.
Thank you.
You bring so many assets to this role, and we look forward to being able to talk to you anytime we want, if you're available.
Of course.
This process moves forward. Councilman, did you want to say something else? Okay. If there are no further questions,
Want me to make a motion to move her to the full council? And was this
Under
a second reading suspension?
Madam
I'll make that
Secretary?
motion.
I'll second it.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, thank you so much.
Thank you, and we appreciate your support.
See you, Gigi.
Take care.
Now I'm going to go have coffee.
You deserve it.
Thank you.
Have to. Bye now.
Bye.
Hey, Madam Clerk.
Resolution 2024-0016, confirming the county executive's appointment and reappointments of various individuals to serve on the Cuyahoga County Community Improvement Corporation Board of Trustees for various terms. For the appointment of Debbie Berry for the unexpired term ending March 31st, 2026, and the reappointments of Michael Chambers and Sarah Parks Jackson for the term October 16th, 2023 through October 15th, 2026.
Morning, Madam Chair. Zoe Toskis on behalf of the County Executive. Pursuant to Ohio Revised Code 1724, I'm here to recommend the appointment of Debbie Berry to the Cuyahoga County Community Improvement Corporation for the unexpired 3-year term that will end March 31st, 2026. And Debbie Berry will be replacing Matt Carroll on this board. We're requesting a second reading suspension for this entire slate. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Good morning.
Good morning, Madam Chair. Good morning, members of council. Thank you for having me here today. As was stated, I'm Debbie Berry. I am currently serving as the Deputy Chief of Integrated Development here at Cuyahoga County, a position that I've been in for about 6 months now, so getting to know all of you a little bit better. I'm really excited about this opportunity. In my role as Chief of Integrated Development, I oversee the departments of Public Works, Economic Development, Housing, and Sustainability, with the thought of bringing those departments and the work that we do in them better collaborative together so that we're serving our communities in a better way. So I feel that this opportunity to serve on this board, looking at economic development in the county, in the region, is going to be a valuable place for me to sit. I think you have my background in front of me. While I am actually a civil engineer by training, I've spent over 20 years in the real estate and economic development field, and again, feel this is a good position for me to be in with some of my other partners here at the county and the team. So I'll take your questions.
Okay. Well, since it's a learning morning, if you could help us understand the purpose of CCCIC.
I am going to read something that I found to help you understand that. So the board was incorporated in 1982 with the express purpose of advancing, promoting, and encouraging industrial, economic, commercial, and civil development in Cuyahoga County. So essentially, it's a board consisting of both county employees and outside professionals, primarily in the banking industry, to evaluate loans and deals, economic development deals that come to the county to make sure that we're making the right decisions and investing our dollars in projects that are going to be valuable to the county going forward.
Okay. Did you volunteer or opt into this service?
Perhaps voluntold. So, but yes.
Okay. And before I open it up to my colleagues, can you tell us what is your philosophy regarding government assistance in economic development lending?
Sure. So unfortunately, we're in very challenging times. In order to pull deals together, there's oftentimes very diverse capital stacks, lots of different sources of funding that need to go into the project to make it happen. And many of these larger projects, whether they're mixed use, commercial, they do require some outside support from the government. And so, we are set up as an organization with a Department of Development that does have funding approved in our budget to be able to support these projects and get them off the ground. We offer various subsidies and loans and a very rigorous process to review those dollars to make sure they're being invested appropriately. But I do believe that in this day and age, we're just in a situation where we have to have some support from our public partners to be able to make some of these larger projects go forward.
Joe was talking.
I'm sorry. Do you want me to repeat all that?
I was multitasking.
Good.
Thank you. Any question for my Councilman Miller?
Not a question, just a comment, Madam Chair, to Ms. Berry. I know that you're working with me on a couple of very complicated and somewhat shaky projects in my district that would be very, very positive if we could get them to happen, but the financing is challenging, and so I just want to say thank you for your support and your efforts and collaboration, and that I really appreciate working with you and strongly support your appointment.
And through the chair to the councilman, thank you. I really appreciate you saying that, and also appreciate your help working with our team to really evaluate these projects.
Councilwoman Conwell.
The chair to Ms. Berry, since you listed the housing stability, public works, and economic development that kind of you're overseeing, does that include a little bit of real estate in terms of what we're doing, the different moves that the county is trying to make in terms of the buildings?
Yes, absolutely. To the chair, to the councilwoman, my department, primarily right now through Public Works, does oversee all of the county's real estate, both owned and leased properties. And as we're looking at acquiring or moving departments and employees, that's something that I'm involved in as well, yes.
Get on your calendar today?
Absolutely.
Hey, thank you.
Today, yeah, whoo. I'll clear some things for you, councilwoman.
Okay. Sees we have no further questions for you today.
All right, thank you for having me.
Thank you.
She'll be back.
I'll be back.
Be back.
Morning, Madam Chair. Next, pursuant to the Ohio Revised Code 1724, I'm here to recommend the reappointment of Michael Chambers for the term 10/16/2023 through 10/15/2026. And like I said, we'll be requesting a second reading suspension. Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning, Mr. Chambers.
Good morning, Madam Chair. Short statement?
Sure.
Okay. So I'm here today, obviously, to ask for your approval once again to keep me on this committee. I've been a very active member of this committee since first joining in 2019. You know, it's a great public-private partnership of the members we have on this committee. We have bankers, real estate people, and I think it's a very rewarding involvement to be with, especially knowing the dedication a lot of that team members are going through to make sure that we're protecting our money. We do take our job very seriously. We're looking for, maximum development opportunities with minimal risk to the county. And once again, I'm proud to be part of the board, and I'm here to answer any questions you have.
Any questions for Mr. Chambers? Councilwoman Conwell?
Yes, through the chair to Mr. Chambers. Okay, I think we learned about this before. How does it get, people apply, do they apply through, just wondering, several groups apply for loans or funding, and the board determines, how does that step get to that? How are they selected?
Well, real quick, the program has different pots, different project goals. For, one, it's like a business growth where it's pretty much a fixed asset. You might need a piece of equipment. The other ones are like large-scale projects, you know, the big multi-million-dollar projects that need a missing piece. Then they have brownfield loans. They also have redevelopment loans. So the program has a bunch of different opportunities and qualifications and how you apply for them. And once that all goes through development, it eventually comes to the board, and we sit down then, and depending upon what the amount is asked, and, you know, our job is to vet and make sure that they're making the loan to equity coverages and that they can pay it back. And that's where our public and private partners come together. And our bankers especially, we rely heavily on. They ask the very difficult questions because they're making loans every single day. So the program works. We have different programs, and it depends on what you're trying to get, and that's where development comes in and finds that piece or that program that works for you, that loan, for lack of a better
So
term.
does it go through development first, all the projects?
Yeah.
And then they determine what will come to you? Because what you're saying is the development can look through a lens and kind of say, you're not quite ready, so why send it to you? Is that what you're saying?
Well, we have equity requirements. They have to make sure they meet them. You know, are there job opportunities? Once again, each program has some different ones. Like a brownfield, for example, is really just a cleanup. So there's a loan program for that. And development is the ones that go through and vet it and bring the loans that, you know, make sense forward to the county. You know, as we know, they're loans, and sometimes they are forgivable if they achieve certain metrics, and once again, develop, you know, monitors all that. Our job is to make sure that we vet it and make sure, you know, it's going to get paid back.
Thank you, that helps.
Yeah.
Well, if there are no further questions, Mr. Chambers, I just have one final question.
Sure.
I didn't know you were a basketball coach.
Many years, multiple teams.
I played basketball in high school and college. Are they any good?
My boys are very good. My girls, work in progress.
Invite me over. All right. Well, thank you again.
Thank you.
I know you already have quite a few other jobs, but thank you, as always, for your desire to continue to serve.
See you soon, hopefully.
See you soon.
Okay, thank you.
Bye-bye.
Madam Chair, last one. So Zoe Toskis on behalf of the county executive and pursuant to the Ohio Revised Code 1724, I'm here to recommend the reappointment of the amazing Sarah Parks Jackson for the term 10/16/2023 through 10/15/2026, and we are requesting a second reading suspension. Thank you.
Thank you. This sounds like the title of a book, The Amazing Sarah Parks Jackson. The cover will probably be pink and green.
Yes, it will.
Good morning.
Good morning, Madam Chair and Council. Sarah Parks Jackson, Director of the Department of Housing and Community Development. This reappointment to the CCCIC, which is what we call it, is my continuation of this board. I was previously appointed by the previous executive to fulfill the term of a member who had gone on to other employment. Prior to that, I made presentations to the CIC because the county, when requested and approved, will provide private activity bonds for certain projects, be they industrial development or healthcare. We haven't done a lot in the past few years, but when we do, the law requires that those bonds go through a community improvement corporation, so the CIC also serves that purpose along with reviewing the loans. I appreciate the opportunity to assist on reviewing these economic development projects, particularly those that are mixed use, because they do have a housing component. And my background and experience in housing and community development, I believe, is essential to the review process, especially when we're talking about whether or not there are affordable housings contained in the mixed-use project, and particularly how the developer is defining affordable. So I have been most appreciative to be able to put my own input into that area. Thank you, and I'm open for questions.
Any questions for Director? Councilwoman Conwell?
Through the chair to Ms. Parks Jackson, you talked about the loans. Who manages the loans? Once the loans are approved and all that, those are in-house loans, not bank loans, correct? Who manages those?
Well, the capital stacks, it could be a combination, but the loan that is being provided by the county is managed by the Department of Development. Managed by the Department of Development.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, Miss amazing Sarah Parks Jackson Councilman Miller, did you have a
Yes,
question?
to Ms. Jackson, thanks for all your dedicated service, and I support your nomination, and I'm just going to slide in a side question. Just wondering what the timing is as to when a set of recommendations will come to the council regarding the community development supplemental.
Miller, I was going to answer that question had you not asked it. We should be presenting the Community Development Supplemental Grant list to council staff in about a week. We're doing some cleanup now, and we should have that to you shortly so that both the CDBG Muni grants and the CDSG can be introduced to this council body together like we normally do, and seeking your approval of both.
Okay, great, thank you.
So through the chair, this is the first round of the supplemental grants for the year?
Yes, we only do one round a year.
One round? I thought we did two.
One round a year.
For all 60? Are we still at 60, or am I thinking just about the community block grant dollars?
I think Councilwoman, I think you're combining them.
Okay.
This body has so graciously provided us with $1.5 million annually for the CDSG, to which we provide $50,000 grants to cities or communities. So that's 20, I think. And then we normally do about 10 of the muni grants. So that's where the 30 comes from.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Councilman Sweeney.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. Director, nice seeing you, as always. Is the 1.5 always allocated, or do you have enough requests for the 1.5? And if so, how many people get left, what dollar amount gets left to the side that doesn't get it? Roughly, no.
When we talk about the CDSG program, we normally receive about 40 applications. So no, we aren't able to fund all of the applications that are received. What we do is the applications that are received are scored based on the criteria that they received. Some of them shouldn't be funded because they're not really ready to go yet. But the money has been sufficient. When the program first started, we had $1 million, and this body graciously increased that to 1.5. And I think it's doing well in the community, providing those cities and nonprofits the opportunity to do things in neighborhoods and communities with those funds that they would not ordinarily be able to do.
And thank you. And I look, as I won't mind sitting down with you to get a deeper grasp. I got some familiarity with it, but it's a absolutely wonderful tool, and I understand it was driven by the council to establish it, and that just gives kudos to the council. So thank you very much, and I'll come find you if you don't mind. Don't hide too much.
Come find me.
Okay. Do you have an example of one of those situations, a non-traditional situation that may not have happened if not for this type of funding?
The CDSG. There have been a number of cities that wanted to do like amphitheaters or gazebos in their parks. That's not something that we could fund with the federal dollars. We don't have general fund dollars for that. So being able to use these dollars for that. In other instances, people have asked for security measures with lighting and additional lighting around transit stops that ordinarily we would not be able to do as well. So those, from one end of the spectrum, from entertainment to safety, we have been able to assist again, those nonprofits and cities that did not have the funding themselves. And sometimes they have the funding for a project, but the money provided by this council fills that gap and allows them to move forward with a much larger project.
Okay, thank you. Councilman.
Through the chair to Ms. Jackson, do you have a list of the different types over the years of the projects that you've done? I know a lot of people, now that the word is getting out about the supplemental grant, they're asking me, and I'm kind of like lost, what exactly are some of the projects that they can be utilized for? Because when you talk about community, is that just putting something in the ground or repairing, or could it use for capital? I'm not clear on that, so if you can share that with us. Thank you.
Councilwoman, I will get you that, but the short side of that is it must be a community development activity. So some things like capital, that's not a community development activity, so it's not an allowable expense. But we have a listing of every year what got funded, what the where it was and what the project was, and we can go back as far as you want us to go back and provide that information to you.
See, that's why you're amazing. You know this stuff, and I want to say publicly to the county executive, thank you for continuing to see your value, and you having a seat at the table of this very important board. If there are no further questions,
Kudos on that.
yeah.
Not allowed to retire.
May I have a motion to, I'll make the motion to move this to the full body of council for second reading, approval under suspension of the rules. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I would like to ask that my name be added in support of these three distinguished people that are going to serve us.
Absolutely. Please add Councilman Miller's name as well as my own,
And me as well?
Councilman Sweeney, Councilman Conwell, and Councilman Gallagher. It's unanimous. Thank you.
Resolution 2024-0041, confirming the county executive's appointment of Debbie Berry to serve on the Gateway Economic Development Corporation of Greater Cleveland Board of Trustees for an unexpired term ending May 31st, 2027.
Morning, Madam Chair. Zoe Toscas on behalf of the county executive. Pursuant to the Ohio Revised Code, Section 307.696, I'm here to recommend the appointment of Debbie Berry to serve on the Gateway Economic Development Corporation of Greater Cleveland Board of Trustees for an unexpired term that will end May 31st, 2027. Debbie Berry will be replacing Matt Carroll, and we are requesting a second reading suspension on this legislation. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Good morning again.
Good morning again, Madam Chair and members of council. Thank you very much for having me. Debbie Berry, Chief of Integrated Development for Cuyahoga County. This board I'm really excited about being on. I think there's a lot of opportunity here to make some change and see some improvements. And so I look forward to working with my colleagues that are also being appointed today for this board. Again, I have a history of economic development, working in neighborhoods, creating opportunities for the region to benefit from added development, and that's what I see our opportunity is here, is working, with the teams, working with the opportunity that we have for additional land around the stadiums to make it a more vibrant place for the city and for the region. I'll take questions.
Okay. So major funding requests are coming from both the Cavs and the Guardians for major capital improvements. Have you been briefed?
So, Madam Chair, like Gigi Benjamin, who spoke earlier today, we are all in the onboarding process right now, getting information about the history of the organization at Gateway, how it was funded, what its purview is moving forward. So I do have some knowledge, but I'm still in that process of learning about what the current asks are and, again, what the history has been to date.
Okay. One final question. If you can speak to it, what do you think would happen to the arena and the ballpark if Gateway were dissolved?
That's an excellent question, Madam Chair, and there seems to be some debate about that. I don't think we have full legal clarification on where those two facilities would actually go, what the ownership of the buildings are themselves. And that's still something I think with our law department, we're trying to fully understand what would happen if, right, we didn't support them going further and the teams decided to leave.
Oh, one more question.
Sure.
Have you had any conversations with the Browns about their plans? And
So personally, again, I'm only 6 months here at Cuyahoga County. In my previous role, I was in some of the conversations because I was doing work on the lakefront about their early thinking about what they'd like to do with the stadium. We have had some conversations, but we have not been asked by the Browns to participate in any way in what they're looking to do going forward. We've just gotten very high-level updates about their plans, how that integrates into the lakefront, and, you know, what they might do going forward.
well, we look forward to hearing more from you on that.
Excellent, thank you.
Councilman Sweeney?
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. Chief, nice seeing you.
Thank you.
Just a quick question. You mentioned our law department will be engaged in trying to figure out that question.
Correct.
What would happen? Is there going to be outside counsel paid for by Gateway? You probably don't know that, but I wouldn't mind, because it's complicated. Sometimes when an entity happens to have it separate than us, they'll have their own legal counsel.
So to the chair, to the councilman, I am aware that Gateway does in fact have legal counsel on staff already. Again, a lot of complicated contracts and negotiations go on between that organization and the sports teams. So yes, I'm sure their legal counsel is probably more well-versed in, you know, the disposition of the stadiums going forward. But I think we, as a county, need to have our legal counsel fully aware of that and understand what our rights are and, you know, what role we play going forward.
And through the chair, it just seems like it could get complicated if it's not one legal entity that's trying to clarify it without question, because the city of Cleveland will have one, the Cavaliers will have one, and the Guardians will have one, and I think that question needs to be very specifically answered.
Thank you, Councilman. We will make sure that we get to the bottom of that.
Councilman Miller?
Thank you very much, Madam Chair, and I would like to follow up on your question, Madam Chair, to Ms. Berry regarding the Browns. I've heard two versions as to how this process is likely to go forward, and one version is that the Browns would interact simultaneously with the city of Cleveland and with Cuyahoga County, perhaps at sometimes with the two of them together. And the other version that I've heard is that the Browns will first work out a proposed deal with the city of Cleveland, and then after that occurs, the Browns and or the city of Cleveland would come to us and say, this is a deal that we have in mind and we would like for you folks to participate in some fashion that they would propose. And so I'm wondering if you have a sense of which of these scenarios is more likely to be how this works.
Sure. To the chair, through the chair to the councilman, Cleveland Brown Stadium is owned wholly by the city of Cleveland, as is the land around it. And so it would be up to the city to begin those negotiations with their leaseholder. And the county does not have any physical ownership or stake in the current agreement that they have. As I stated earlier, we have not been asked to participate in any negotiations that are ongoing. And so we'll wait and see if at some point the county is invited into those conversations. That would be separate at this point completely from Gateway, that has no jurisdiction whatsoever over Brown Stadium, as I'm sure you know.
Understood, and thanks for the insight.
Sure, thank you for the question.
Councilman Gallagher.
Welcome.
Thank you.
To clarify my earlier statement, as I'm sure you heard, a good portion of my no vote for the Indians/Guardians was the fact that they wouldn't even let us look at their books. They claim poor, and they claim poor with their hand out on the right, but they're pocketing the cash on their left. And again, I state that they're preparing that facility to sell to another billionaire, and I would do the same doggone thing if I was them, so I'm not being negative towards them. Business is business, but let's not fool ourselves. They're in it for the money, as everybody else is. And the only one that shows me right now, actually, is Gilbert. Seems to have an interest in Cleveland, and more so than just the arena. And now the Haslams with the lakefront, and I'm not naive, it's all business, and it's about putting money into that left hand in your pocket, which, again, I do the same thing. So as a member of Gateway, what I would expect out of you and ask out of you is that you'd ask the Guardians/Indians, let me see your books. And then you can feel like how I felt like when they tell you no, but yet cry poor. And then, of course, you'll be dealing with a new owner in the near future, which probably would be a good thing. But I think we should start looking at how do we get out from underneath this. It's wholly unfair to the taxpayer, understanding that the taxpayers with full vision went into this. But the reason they went into it was, again, that sort of Damocles over your head. Well, you don't give us a facility, we're going to pick our ball up and go. Not like the Browns. The Browns were a different situation where you had an owner with no money, and he went for the money somewhere else, and the NFL allowed them. But what's your understanding with the Browns Stadium as far as, you said, whole ownership by the city of Cleveland? I thought the NFL had a stranglehold on the dates there. No, did that expire? Are you aware of that?
Through the chair to the councilman, I don't know that I can answer that question. I guess I was referring to the building, the facility, again, is the city's agreement. They have a leasehold with the Browns. I don't have the intricacies of how the NFL's involved or not involved on that, negotiation. We haven't been involved.
So you have not been briefed on this at all?
I don't know enough about, again, the details of the Browns' current agreement or any future agreement that they may have with the city, and the county has not been at the table for those conversations.
Okay. I seem to recall that the county was briefed in some fashion, not just recently, no?
More high-level conversations just about what future plans may look like, as opposed to getting into all of the deal points.
What does a high-level briefing look like?
Just discussion of thoughts and strategy going forward of how, again, they might look at what they want their investment to be down on the lakefront.
Who from the county was in these high-level?
To my knowledge, there has been a couple of different meetings. I participated in one of them, along with several other staff members from the county.
Okay. Well, not an easy job because, the dollars are short and the demands are long. And again, my vote against that facility was because they wouldn't show us their books. And quite honestly, we don't own it. We're the land. Whoever put Gateway together was brilliant. They forever tied us together with Cleveland. So the land on one end is ours, but the facility is theirs, and the facility is ours, but the land is theirs. I got to say, it was a brilliant maneuver to permanently, at least as far as this Gateway goes, to keep us together on that. And honestly, I think the concern up here might be is trying to wheedle the Brown Stadium into Gateway, which I would be I would object to unless it made sense for the county. And I can't recall something with Cleveland that's really made a lot of sense other than buying a police building, which has been a wonderful thing for us. So I wish you well. Keep your eyes and ears open, and always remember that while on one hand you might have been on that side or closer to that side, you represent us.
Absolutely. Thank you, Councilman.
Councilman?
Thank you for having me.
Again. All right. I will move that we send this item to the full body of council for second reading under suspension of the rules. Do I have a second? All in favor? Aye. Okay, thank you.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
please add my name.
Please add Councilman Miller's name.
Resolution 2024-0042, confirming the county executive's appointment of Bryce Sylvester to serve on the Gateway Economic Development Corporation of Greater Cleveland Board of Trustees for an unexpired term ending May 31st, 2027.
Madam Chair, Zoe Toskis on behalf of the County Executive pursuant to the Ohio Revised Code 307.696. I'm here to recommend the appointment of Bryce Sylvester to serve on the Gateway Economic Development Corporation of Greater Cleveland Board of Trustees for an unexpired term ending May 31st, 2027. Bryce will be replacing Ron King, and we are requesting a second reading suspension on this legislation. Thank you.
Mr. Sylvester, good morning. Thanks
Good
for hanging in
morning,
there.
Madam Chair.
All right.
Just got a couple of remarks.
Mr. Sylvester, can you just state your name for the record, please?
Absolutely. I'm
Thank
sorry, I forgot Sharon.
Thank you.
Bryce Sylvester, Senior Director of Site Strategies at Team NEO. Like Debbie and Gigi, I'm grateful for the executive for nominating me for this position and excited to start getting involved. I think what Debbie mentioned today and what Gigi mentioned today is really where I stand. I feel like we're on a first inning of a long game in front of us, and there's a lot of information and learning that I have to do to further understand really the primary role of the district historically, what it is today, but then I think where I can start to bring some value is what it can be in the future. So I spent 10 years working under Mayor Mike Summers in the city of Lakewood. 4 of those years were leading the Department of Planning and Development, where we were connecting long-term strategy with real estate projects all throughout Lakewood. And I've been at Team NEO for 4 years, leading our sites team that's really focused on bringing new jobs to the region. So my strengths are in understanding long-term vision and planning and aligning public finance and real estate projects with what those plans can be. From my perspective, the Guardians and the Cavs are critical assets to consider for downtown, and maybe some things that haven't been mentioned yet, but I think need to be on the table are really related to the broader vision for downtown. You certainly have what is being envisioned on the riverfront and on the lakefront, but there's also everything in between. I admire a lot of what the Cleveland Metro Parks is doing right now in terms of their focus on the connectors to their reservations. I think the Gateway District is in a very similar spot. There is a lot of eyes on the lakefront. There are a lot of eyes on the riverfront, rightfully so. We have 2 big visions that are trying to formulate there, but the connections in between those 2 things are just as important as coming out of the ground and making improvements on those sections of downtown Cleveland. So I think Gateway can play that critical connector role, and we have to figure out ways, one, to stabilize a sustainable funding source first, and second, start to contemplate, along with you and all the stakeholders that are involved, on what this district can be in the future. Madam Chair and council members, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, I have one.
Okay.
And it's around the theme of the connections that you just spoke about. And from your unique position and the work that you have done, what, if any, changes would you like to see in the operations of the Gateway Development Corporation?
I'd like to explore how the team at Gateway would be able to facilitate and manage public improvements that are happening in between the ballpark, the arena, and then into the core of downtown. How we do that or how we raise money to do that is to be determined. But I think this entity can explore a way that it can manage those in-betweens that can connect not only the ballpark and the arena, but connections into East 4th Street and down to Public Square, even into getting down to Euclid Avenue. So I think part of that is understanding what the whole district is first. We certainly have the 2 anchor assets that we have to think about, but the district is much bigger than that. Does it mean that we need to expand to the whole district? Not necessarily, but I do think that we should start to think about what improvements are happening on those other parcels with those other development projects that are beyond just the 2 sports teams.
Okay. Any questions? Councilman?
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. Mr. Bryce Sylvester, welcome.
Thank you, Councilman.
Dale Miller whispered in my ear about 30 seconds ago, and he says he's an excellent candidate. Why? He says, because he lives in my district. So you got one here.
Thank you, Councilman.
You sprinkle a little bit of Mayor Summers, so that's another one. It's more of a reflection. It's nice, you're a fresh perspective. We have some long-standing, great contributors to the city, region, and the state that got approved, and there's a few other ones that are on there that's been around for a while. What I'm seeing right now is fresh, new, and excited. And my thought is, sometimes when you come in as a newer council person, you think you're a junior member and you have to sit there on any of these boards through the chair to our new appointed person. Your magic pin is better than, is same as everybody else's. I want you to come to that table and you have this expertise that is unique. I hope it doesn't sound like a, soapbox or pompous to be able to tell you that, but it is a very serious spot, and you come as an equal member as every one of those board colleagues of yours. So that's my 2 cents, and if we can help at all regarding this process, don't hesitate to call me because I have some familiarity with you, but it's very nice to have you aboard. So thank you, Madam Chairwoman.
Thank you, Councilman. That's very kind of you. I appreciate that.
Councilman Gallagher?
Welcome, sir. You seem to have expanded what Gateway's all about. Could you give me the definition of the job?
From my perspective, I think it's about accelerating economic development in that district. I think fundamentally there is the public financing component of stabilizing the Anchor ballpark and the arena. That has to be chief objective number one. What is the sustainable long-term funding stream to support that? And I think we should evaluate everything in order to truly exhaust what the most appropriate public funding streams are. From my perspective, that's the first thing. But the district is much bigger than just those two assets. And if I were talking to the Guardians or the representatives from the Cavs, they want investments around them as much as they do the stabilization of their two assets. So I think it's incumbent upon the board to evaluate what's happening in the rest of the district. Where are there shortfalls? Are there other development opportunities and parcels and buildings that wrap those two stadiums that can help to facilitate more development in the district? Councilman Miller brought up Fenway as an example. I'm not necessarily saying that's what we follow, but I do think we need to start thinking more broadly about real estate development that's happening around the two parks.
I would agree. This is, and being a lifelong Lakewoodian.
Is that right? What street do you live on?
Baxterly.
Very nice. We're on Northland.
And I tell, when I was on city council in Strongsville, I got everybody mad because I'd always preached my fantastic memories of growing up in Lakewood, and tried to bring a little of that to Strongsville, and not easy to do to cross over. But anyhow, and the mayor you mentioned is a wonderful mayor. These are actually very exciting times. They're very dangerous times, and either we're going to make a good move or a bad move. But the concentration of Gateway, I think, should be placed directly on the facilities. And you did mention what I would consider the most important part of it, expanding where we're going to get this money. Do you have any ideas about that, or you want to keep that under hat until you get going?
I'd prefer the latter. We've got some learning to do, Councilman. And what I would say back to you is if you have some ideas that you've thought of yourself, I'm an open book, and I'd love an opportunity to talk to you about it.
Well, I said, let's give the facilities to the sports teams, locking them in forever and ever to Cleveland, so we don't have that question anymore, and sweeten it with the sales tax on tickets and what they have. So, I mean, I understand their position, though. When you're given a gift every day, forever, you keep it. I like having younger people moving forward, taking a better look at it, because in the end, it's going to be your baby down the line, and I hope as you're changing those diapers, you'll find out Years go by, you're going to be dealing with a teenager, and we all know how that goes. But I would also ask that you ask for the books. I don't need to know it. I understand why they tell me no, but you're on the board. If they're going to cry poor publicly, which they have, only one of them has, the Cavs haven't, let me see your books. Prove it. And I know why they don't want to show it to us, because like I said, they're packaging it up and they're going to sell it, and I get it. But if you're going to cry poor publicly, show me the money, or lack of money. So good luck.
Thank you, Councilman.
Councilwoman Conwell? and
I just have one quick question, Madam Chair. Is Destination Cleveland on the Gateway Board? Are there members on the board?
Not to my knowledge, but I'm not 100% sure on that, Councilwoman.
Thank you.
Councilman Miller?
Madam Chair, to Mr. Sylvester, I just strongly support your vision about paying close attention to the properties and the development in and around the stadiums and the arena. I just think if we build a viable neighborhood around these facilities, that it creates the momentum to keep these facilities maintained and operating at the same locations for a very long time, as opposed to there being two isolated facilities that can be moved from one location to another location at will every 25 years, which I don't think works for Cleveland. So I appreciate and support your vision on that. I'm all in for my constituent and would like my name added to this resolution. Thank you.
Thank you,
Okay,
Councilman.
Please add Councilman Miller's name. Please add my name. Please add my name to everything here today. Okay. All right, if there are no further questions, I will ask that we move. I will make a motion to move this item to the full body of the council for second reading under suspension of the rules. Do I have a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you again for your service. Look forward to hearing more from you.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you.
Madam Clerk, Madam Chair, can I have my name added to 0318?
Please add Councilwoman Conwell's to 38.
Noted, thank you.
All right, is there any miscellaneous business? Seeing none, this meeting is adjourned.